So a fight has officially broken out on the set of Fox News' Tucker Carlson. Now, the fight was more of an argument and a word fight between Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, The View, and Mitt Romney. So let's dive into this feud that happened on Fox News' Tucker Carlson. Well, for the start of the feud, we have to go back to the Twitter feed of Tulsi Gabbard, who came out and made a very bold statement about what's going on in Ukraine. Now, here's what she actually said. Take a listen to what she stated.
There are 25 to 30 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the U.S. government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Ukraine is in an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery, and shelling, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death. So in order to protect the American people, the people of Europe, the people around the world, these labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed.
Not a bad statement coming from a Democrat, Tulsi Gabbard, who makes it very clear that there are biolabs in Ukraine and these labs need to be shut down. Well, I don't see any problem with that. However, Mitt Romney, a fake Republican, a rhino who I would more or less call a Democrat, had this to say about the Democrat Tulsi Gabbard after she stated that. And take a look at his Twitter page here. And he said this: Tulsi Gabbard is parroting false Russia propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. So here we have fake Republican Mitt Romney calling out Tulsi Gabbard, saying, "How dare you say anything about the U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine? So therefore, basically, shut up, Tulsi Gabbard, because you are a Russia propaganda spewing and supporting Putin," which is not anything of which she did. But thankfully, she responded to Mitt Romney. Take a look at what she said here on her Twitter page. She goes, "At Mitt Romney, you have called me a treasonous liar for stating the fact that there are 25 plus U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine, which, if breached, would release and spread deadly pathogens to U.S. and the world, and therefore must be secured in order to prevent new pandemics." Bizarrely, and I agree with her, I think we need to, do something about these biolabs. But she goes on, bizarrely, you claim that securing these labs or even calling for securing these labs is treasonous and will lead to loss of life? When the exact opposite is obviously true. The spread of pathogens is what will cause a loss of life, not the prevention of such spread. She goes on, "Senator Romney, rhino, please provide evidence that what I said is untrue and treasonous. If you cannot, you should do the honorable thing, apologize and resign from the Senate. Evidence of the existence of such biolabs, their vulnerability, and thus the need to take immediate action to secure them is beyond dispute." And here's the reason she's giving, right? Number one, State Department's Victoria Nuland acknowledged such labs containing dangerous pathogens exist in Ukraine in her testimony to the U.S. Senate. Now, I'm going to hit the pause button right here on that because what I want to do is play that actual clip for you of Victoria Nuland that she's referencing. Take a listen.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
There you have it. She states very clearly to Marco Rubio, our U.S. Senator, that Ukraine has biological research facilities and that her concern is that Russian troops may be seeking that. Interesting. I'd like to see what Mitt Romney has to say about that. But moving on to her next point here, number 2, the Pentagon fact sheet that was published March 11th, 2022, has numerous statements directly and even indirectly confirming the existence of such biolabs. Now, here's that actual report here, the fact sheet, and I'm going to leave it in the description box below so you guys can read it for yourself at a later date. But that's what she's referencing here. Going back over to her third point here, number 3, CBS Face the Nation on March 13th, 2022, correspondent David Martin said the Pentagon officials told him they're concerned about the existence of such biolabs in Ukraine. And here's what they stated specifically. The concern is that the Russians will seize one of these biomedical research facilities that Ukraine has, where they do research on deadly pathogens. And he lists a few of those. Seizes one of these facilities, they weaponize these pathogens, and then blame it on Ukraine and the U.S. because the U.S. has been providing support for some of the research being done in these facilities. That's a direct quote. Number 4 here, she says, in April 2020, in refuting Russia's accusations that the U.S. is using biolabs in Ukraine to develop biological weapons, our embassy in Ukraine acknowledged there are U.S.-funded labs in Ukraine working with pathogens and vaccines and other peaceful purposes. And she goes on to link it. And 5, CNN fact-checked. There are U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. That much is true. And number 6, according to the DoD, there are 2 biolabs in Ukraine that have been under Russia control for some time. And I quote, Russia illegally took possession of 2 Ukraine-owned laboratories that BTRP upgraded in 2014 and continues to deny Ukrainian access to these facilities. And she goes, Romney, you have a choice out of pride. Continue to deny the truth or admit that you're wrong and apologize. So there you have it. That's kind of the start of the battle. But after she published all of that, of course, mainstream media news reports started calling her a fake Russian agent who is a propaganda agent for Putin. And, well, she's being financed by Russia. Take a look at this article here, what I'm talking about. And this is on meaww.com. And here's what it states. Tulsi Gabbard has been labeled a Russia agent after it emerged she received money from Elena Branson. How much money did she get from this woman who she doesn't know at all? Well, let's scroll down in the report. Only $59.95 in total. Therefore, Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian agent from accepting contributions from a woman she's never met in her life or never known in the sum total of $59.95. The absurdity of that. And I'm here supporting a Democrat. I think she's more of a libertarian in my view. But here we have the audacity of the mainstream media trying to call her a Russian agent. Well, as a result of that, Fox News' Tucker Carlson took Tulsi Gabbard on his broadcast, and here's a clip from that.
The facts remain. Number 1 is they're accusing me of saying that somehow there are bioweapons labs in Ukraine. I've said no such thing at any point. I have said that there are biolabs in Ukraine that have received U.S. support that contain dangerous pathogens, that if those labs are breached, then we in the world are facing a potential future of pandemics, that this is a dangerous crisis that needs to be addressed immediately. These pathogens need to be destroyed. The second thing they're saying is they deny, even though there is a plethora of evidence that exists, they deny that these biolabs are even there. That's the concern that I've continued to raise because it is not left or right, Democrat or Republican. This is a serious safety and health and life concern for the American people and people around the world. And so the media is lying. They're not only lying about this. You saw headlines a couple of days ago, Tulsi Gabbard paid off by Russian agent. What the media is lying about is the fact that an American citizen gave my campaign a $59 contribution coming from a woman I've never met, never talked to, don't know anything about. but somehow they feel justified in saying Tulsi Gabbard is being paid off. The danger in the media lying so blatantly to the American people, these so-called journalists who have a responsibility to the public, it poses a very direct threat to our democratic republic because they continue to get away with it. They continue to parrot and propagate these lies, and they need to be held accountable. They need to be exposed.
She's absolutely right. The mainstream media is constantly getting away with blatantly lying to the American people in this case, lying about the real details of what Tulsi Gabbard said and even Tucker Carlson said, and even going to the extreme of calling them Russia propagandists and even calling for their jailing. In fact, shortly after that recording there, The View took to the airway and made a couple, more false statements about the duo. Take a listen here.
Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News. What Tulsi Gabbard is spreading is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. How do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda and that has been brought down?
They used to arrest people for doing stuff like this. If they thought you were colluding with a Russian agent, if they thought you were putting out information or taking information and handing over to Russia, they used to actually investigate stuff like this.
So The View, who is just an insane duo, is literally saying Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard are Russia propagandist agents who are being paid by Putin. If you watch the entire clip, not only do they state that, but the DOJ should investigate those people who might be accepting funds or, anybody who is parroting Russia propaganda. And not only that, but Whoopi Goldberg calls for their arrest and even says, they used to arrest people in the past. No, really. Whoopi, they haven't, unless you're talking about the Palmer raids, and in support of that, get to Restricted Republic to find out more on that. I've kind of talked about it in detail there, but basically, I'll get into that at a later date. But either way, here we have a liberal duo calling for the crackdown, not because Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard actually agree with Putin, because they don't. They're against what Putin is doing, and they don't agree with what's going on in the war, but yet they're going to act like that's exactly what they're doing, simply because they touched on a topic that you're not allowed to bring up, which are the biolabs, of course. How dare you talk about that? Let's shut them down and shut them up. And that's their entire plan. But Tucker Carlson responded. Take a listen.
Really? They used to arrest people for saying stuff like this. When did they arrest people for saying stuff like this? And who is they exactly? Well, the former Karen Elaine Johnson didn't tell us. She kept it vague because that way it's a lot more threatening and maybe you will shut up. And again, we hesitate to show clips from that show. It's an IQ killer. But we're making an exception tonight because The View is not alone. A lot of people sound like this. And it's one of these processes where it sounds insane for sure. I can't believe they said that. And then over time, what sounded crazy the first time you heard it sounds a little more normal. And then 3 weeks into the war, it sounds like probably pretty necessary. Keith Olbermann is always at the cutting edge of things like this. He was watching The View today, doesn't have a lot else to do, and he responded to that segment by writing this on Twitter. They, us, are Russian assets, and there is a war. There's a case for detaining them militarily. Trials are a sign of good faith and patience on the part of democracy. So we're at war with Russia. We must send you to the gulag because freedom. Because a democracy, the one thing democracy doesn't have patience for is dissenting views from its own citizens, particularly citizens who sincerely hope and pray for the best for their own country. Those people must be imprisoned militarily. That's what he's saying.
So the big story here is this simple fact that if you don't talk the talking points of the mainstream media, then you are a Russian agent in line with Putin. Even if you disagree with everything Putin is doing, you're still a Russia propaganda agent. How dare you bring up what's happening with the biolabs. It doesn't matter if it's actually true or not. We don't want that information out. So you should be arrested. You should be investigated. You should be dragged to prison. How dare you say something that's true? How dare you share information that the U.S. government has already shared, because they don't like the fact that it exposes what's really going on. The ultimate goal here, and I've said it again, is to shut you up and shut you down when you don't speak the narrative that they want. This is the same thing that happens in Korea. This is the same thing that happens in North Korea and in China. This is the same thing that happened under Stalin, Mao, name the dictator. And right now, they're calling for it, and it is happening in the United States of America. Why do you think I created Restricted Republic? Anyhow, with that, kind of went on. Please don't forget to check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. If you haven't converted your 401k into something backed by gold, silver, precious metals, you could do that. And you could do that now. And I encourage you to do that now in the light of everything that's going on. They are giving away this amazing 3-ounce silver coin here. And this thing is really cool. It's a new thing that they've started, but it's got a 3D Thomas Jefferson on one side and Lady Liberty on the back. It is really a keeper. And I believe it's limited supply. So they're only going to carry 1,500 of these. So get there quick, give them a call, and they don't hassle you at all. So give them a call and just ask them some of the information at 1-877-646-5347. Let them know you heard it on Lisa Haven. Anyhow, I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.